What's up guys, and welcome to another SMIE quickvid. So today I want to talk about something that in truth has been around for a while, but it's possible a lot of persons have forgotten about it, and maybe genuinely some people just didn't know about it, but it's really good. Now this is mainly for my SMB peeps, but it goes across the board. SMB, enterprise, campus level, it has a lot of applications. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so what we're talking about today is publishing remote apps using Microsoft's built-in RDS feature. RDS is basically remote desktop services, which is pretty much standard across all Microsoft server iterations, like from server 2008 to 2012 to 2016, etc. Now, a lot of businesses, especially small businesses and businesses within the Caribbean and Latin American region, are actually running Microsoft-led environments. And this type of feature is especially beneficial in those kind of environments. All right, so what are we talking about when we say publish remote apps, and how can this be beneficial to your organization? So let's start with publishing a remote app, right? What is that? Basically, all that is sharing an app from one user machine to a group of people, or to one other person, or however you may like it. But it's basically just sharing one app that's installed on a machine to everybody. So by now, I can see the gears turning and you're probably going, something like that might actually be pretty useful. All right, so let's give you an example, right? So imagine, let's say you have a graphics company, and this graphics company uses a specific application to process and deliver your graphics, right? Now in your organization, let's say you have 10 graphic designers, and these 10 designers have 10 high-end machines, and each of these machines are gonna need an instance of this application, and they're also gonna need a license for this instance, right? Now the licensing can be, you have one specific license for each instance, or you can have one general license that probably is licensed for 10 users or 10 instances in that one license instead of 10 separate licenses. No. Imagine a setup where you can actually have one install of this application on one high-end machine, licensed for that instance and everything, and this is being shared out to all your 10 graphic designers, and they're using this application from that one instance. Might save you some money, huh? Licensing costs, resource costs in terms of the high-end machines that you might need to get. It might save you a number of things actually. So today, I'm really just gonna show you how to get this done and what you need to do it, right? Let's get to it. All right, so the first thing that we need to look at is what you actually need to get this done, right? Here's your list. So the first thing that you're gonna need your DNS server, and you're gonna need your domain controller, right? Your DNS server and your domain controller can be the same server, or they can be two separate servers for these purposes, right? Either way, it's no big deal, whichever way you wanna do that. That's totally up to you. Second thing that you're gonna need is your application server, and that's gonna be the server that's actually sharing the application that you want to publish, that you want everybody to be able to use, right? Just a point to note though, that your application server needs to be on the same domain that's managed by your domain controller, okay? All right, cool. So now let's look at how you actually do this. All right, so now we get to the fun stuff. Now we get to actually do this thing, right? All right. So I'm using Windows Server 2016 just to demo this to you, right? But you could do the same thing on Windows Server 2012 or 2019. The steps are pretty much the same, right? So first thing that we need to do is to actually bring up our server manager, right? Because we're gonna need to install a few stuff, namely remote desktop services. So First thing, server manager. All right, awesome. So once you get to server manager, you're gonna wanna click on add roles and features, right? Because basically that's what you're doing. So click next. What you're looking to install is remote desktop services installation, right? So click next after you select remote desktop services installation. I mean, you could do this another way. You could actually go in and let me go back here. You could go role-based or feature-based installation, and then you go in there and search for RDP and go through the whole work of selecting everything step by step. But this selecting remote desktop services installation just kind of makes it easier, much quicker, right? Now, you're gonna do quick start. So quick start basically installs the stuff that you need to get this done. So you select quick start and then click next. What you're installing is a session-based desktop deployment, right? Because you're gonna want to be accounting for the sessions. These are your users logging in. So you select session-based desktop deployment, click next. You select your server. Now you're on the server and this is the only server. So it's already automatically selected. It says one computer phone. So you click next, and then once you click next, it's supposed to come up and give you the option to deploy, right? So this screen comes up. You select the option to restart the destination server automatically if required, and then boom, you select deploy. So all three of these things are now going to install, right? This is gonna take a little while. So I'm gonna just skip through this part and come back when it's done, okay? All right, and that's done. And now we're back. So we've installed RDS. The next thing that we're gonna want to do now is basically just configure the file sharing. But then or rather the application sharing. But couple things to note here before we do this, right? With your computers that are going to connect to this, they're going to connect over URL or via URL, right? It would be really helpful for those computers to be using the same DNS server that the fully qualified domain name is configured on. So that FQDN for this server, it would really be best to be using the same DNS server on the machines that are going to connect to the application, right? So that they can resolve that name. Otherwise, from that, you're just going to be using the IP address. Well, so that's providing that you're using DNS to resolve the name of the machine, right? You can just use the IP address as well, okay? All right, so here, we're going to come into remote desktop services. So let me go back, just so you see. You didn't see this before. This wasn't there before when we just started the configuration. So this was added after we actually installed RDS services, right? Now, at some point, you're probably going to see some message pop up here that's going to tell me that this is not going to last for very long because remote desktop licensing services aren't configured. So here's what you do. Once you come here, you can click here for the licensing, and it's going to ask you to deploy a licensing server. You can make the licensing server this server, or if you had a server already somewhere in a pool of servers, you could select it. But I'm going to just create this as the licensing server. So I'll click that over there, and then I'll click next. Once I click next, then it comes up for me to add this as the licensing server. Click add. And then it's going to go through the process and add this server as the licensing server. So then I won't have that issue continuously coming up that there is no licensing server installed or configured, right? This is going to take a little while as well. So just going to give it some time and then come back to it. All right, so now that's done, and we've added the licensing server configuration to this VM because we're going to use this server itself as the license controller for all of your remote connections, right? Point to note, whenever you're doing this kind of setup, there is a maximum amount of concurrent users for Windows with remote desktop services. I think it's 40 or maybe 50, or somewhere between 40 to 50 users is the maximum amount of users it can take concurrently, right? So that's just a point to bear in mind. All right, so now we've added the RD licensing. We're gonna need to configure it for the particular type of license that we're using. And we can use either a device license or a user license. In this case, it would be much better to utilize a user license for the users that you're having connect in rather than a device license, because then it's gonna just license the server, this particular server, right? So in order to do that, we're gonna go to tasks. Under this same tab here, deployment overview, we're going to go to tasks, then we're going to go to edit deployment properties, and then we have a number of options in here that we can configure, but we're focusing on RD licensing right now. So we go to RD licensing. So here is where you'll see the different types of user licenses that you can select. So you can select per device or you can select per user, right? Per user was already selected, which is why when you see it come up here, you see it apply grayed out, but per user is the one that we'd want. So we can select per user licensing and then just select apply, or just select OK, and it would actually apply the per user license. Right, so now that that's done, now we're gonna go into actually sharing the application that we want to use. So we're gonna go to quick session collection, right? And under this particular tab is where we'll find what we need to share an app. So first thing that you can see jump out at you is the remote app programs. These are the actual apps that we're going to be sharing, right? If you look in here, you can actually see that there are some apps here that are already automatically shared. So once you enable this service, these apps are already automatically shared. I don't know why Microsoft feels that you need to share these apps, but that's on Microsoft. So this is automatically done. All right, so now we're going to choose the app that we want to share. So we're going to go to tasks, and then we're going to go to publish remote apps. It's going to retrieve a list of apps that are installed, and then you can pick from the apps that are installed what you want to share. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to share vSphere client, VMware vSphere client. So I just select the app and then select next and then select publish. And then this is going to publish the app out so that I can access it from wherever, right? Well, wherever on the network. All right, so now it's up in our list. The next thing that we need to do is to assign user groups that we want to be able to actually access this. So we're gonna come up top to properties, and we're gonna select tasks, and we're gonna select edit properties. So you have a number of options in here as well, but we're looking for user groups. So we select user groups, and this is where we'll add the particular user groups that we want to utilize this app, right? Now, what this should tell you is that, this is going to be reading from these user groups that it's adding are going to be adding from your domain controller, your Active Directory, right? And so this is going to be based on whatever user groups you have created there already. So you can, let's say you only want to share the app to specific user groups, you can actually create your user groups in your Active Directory and then assign your specific users to that group that you want to have access to it, and then you add the group here, right? Now, I don't really have a group to add because domain users is already here automatically, and domain users is a group that my test user is added to. But just to show you, I could click add here and say I want to add another group. I can type in domain, check names. You know, the group's name is going to be whatever it is that you name it to be, but I'm just choosing one of the groups from the domain. So domain admins, and I click OK, and I click OK again, and then domain admins is added. And then I can click apply, and it's going to apply permission to domain admin. So a domain admin user would be able to connect and utilize any other apps that I'm sharing. And that's it. We're done. We've shared the app, we've published it. Now all we need to do is to test accessing it from another device that sits on the same network, right? And I just so happen to have one here. All right, so just so you are sure, right, this device that we actually did the share on, 192.168.120.50, that's a different device. This other VM is 192.168.120.10, right? So I'm coming from a different computer, different IP address, and I'm going to access the apps there, right? So, whoops, wrong thing selected there. Cool. All right, so I'm coming here, and I'm now going to access the IP address of that server because I did not give it an FQDN. So I'm going to access it via IP address, which was 192.168.120.50. Whoops, my bad. One thing I forgot. Now this is very important. So you have to add the name of the services here, which is RDWeb. RDWeb, right? There we go. All right. Now, I'd logged into this before, which is why you see this here. And no, that was not cheating. I had just tested it before to make sure that it works. Because, you know, even though I'm a genius, I can't not have this thing work. Anyways, so I'm going to log into this now with my test user, which is here. So once you bring up the URL, log in with your test user. And boom, here are the list of apps that were shared, right? So I can click on any one of these apps, and what's gonna happen is it's gonna download like a little, let's say JavaScript application. Once I click on it, and then you can select that, and it will actually run RDP services to connect to the app, right? So I clicked on the application that I want to open, and then it downloads this little app here. I click on it, and then it's gonna ask me to connect. I could select don't ask me to connect again to this user, so I don't have to go through this process again, right? And I can also select right here to remember my credentials, so I don't have to do this again either, which would make it a lot faster, right? So select yes, and boom, here it is. We have opened our application, and there it is, VMware vSphere client. Now I can't test this and show you because the machine that this sits on isn't connected to any networks that have any hosts that I can connect to. So I would show you that it definitely works. Another thing though to note is even though I'm accessing this from another machine, there are certain caveats, right? So this is running off a particular machine, a separate machine on the network, which means if, let's say this was a program like Paint, right? And I chose the option to print. Let's open Paint. Let's open Paint since it's there. And I did a diagram, I did a drawing somewhere, and I said, oh, okay, print this drawing right here. It's gonna print to the printer that's connected to this machine, right? This machine that Paint is installed on, right? However, you can configure it so that this application also has access to the machine that you're on. And I think it, if I'm not mistaken, it may be configured automatically. So if I was to go to print, it should, or if I went to, a better example would be save. Let's say save. If I come to save, it should give me the information for my PC, the PC that I'm on, as well as the PC that it's installed on. So I'm on this, which is Cisco Jumpbox, right? And I can, it comes up as a network drive, so I can save on this computer rather than on the PC that it's installed on, right? So you have that option as well. Another thing, just a quick little bite here that I can tell you is when you download these apps, that little JavaScript app that comes up to the bottom of your browser, you can actually save that on your desktop as a shortcut and then rename it so that it takes way less time. So I could actually do this. Go to downloads. So Paint came up here. Let's rename Paint, right? And I can rename it Paint, whatever it is that I want to rename it, but just for the purpose of this, rename it Paint. And then it comes up again asking for connections to the computer. Let's say I selected that and I click connect. Then I could do this as well, remember my credentials, and I go here, type in my password, don't ask again for connection to this computer. Boom. Select that. Paint is open. So now if I was to open it again a second time, after I've done all of that stuff, it should just open automatically because I've already put in my password and I select the option to remember it and not to ask me again and all of that stuff. So now it just comes up automatically whenever I click on it. And there you go. And that's it. Yep. So now you're an expert on how to actually publish an app from one device to everybody on your network. Yeah. Nifty little feature, that's for sure. I know it will save you a lot of headache. Definitely has saved a lot of my SMB customers a lot of headache. So that's it for today, guys. Drop me a line in the comments and let me know what you think. Lots more to come on SMIE. I really think I should probably stop calling these videos quick vids. They're not very quick, I've noticed. They take a little while. But yeah, drop me a line in the comments. Let me know what you think of the video. Drop me a thumbs up if you like it. Yeah, thanks for dropping in with me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.